Well, welcome everybody. Good morning. Thank you for coming to today's webinar. My name is Will Stroll. I'm one of the sales engineers here at DotNetNuke. Been around for quite a while in the community. So today's webinar is a joint webinar with our official partner, Titan SEO, our official partner for search engine optimization, and the topic that we're going over today is don't get hurt by Google's big changes. So we're going to be talking about some very important changes that are coming to search engine optimization. So first we're going to do some housekeeping here, and I just want to make sure if you can hear my voice just fine. I just want you to use your GoToWebinar control panel there and use that raise your hand feature and let us know that you can hear us okay. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Thank you all very much. All right. So next, if you can see the slides all right, and that's all working for you, you can see that little tree right in the center of the screen. Go ahead and use that raise your hand feature one more time for me, please. Excellent, excellent. Everybody had their coffee this morning or eat. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get moving here, but one more housekeeping item. We just, if you have any questions whatsoever, just make sure you go ahead and ask them in the control panel, the very same place you've been raising your hand. Just go ahead and use that question portion of it to ask any questions that you have. We won't necessarily be answering them live, but we will go ahead and answer all of them that we can at the end of the webinar, and anything that we can't get to within our time frame, we'll go ahead and respond to you via email afterwards. So please ask all the questions that you can, and anything that pops up. We'd love to hear from you. So DotNetNuke as a platform, we like to do something that we call solving problems, right? So we solve a very specific problem. It's very difficult for businesses out there to keep up with the changes that are constantly coming to websites in general. Agility is something that a lot of companies, as a rule, they just don't have enough of. And when it comes to websites and the changes that come, almost literally on a monthly basis, it's very difficult to keep up with those. And so DotNetNuke as a platform, we help you with that problem. We allow you to be agile. We allow you to go ahead and do the latest things that make sense for your business, and so we help you get beyond that struggling, and we give you a path to be able to respond to that unpredictable change. So as far as getting there, we have a very adaptive web platform. For those of you that are familiar with DotNetNuke, you already know this, and so for those of you that aren't, DotNetNuke is full of ways that allow you to not be put into a box, but allows you to define what your box is, and so it allows you to always be able to have the way that you want your website to be relevant, up to date, in touch. It allows you to engage with your customers, your visitors, in ways that you want, instead of us defining that for you. All right, so just a couple highlights about DotNetNuke. It is the #1 web content management system on the Microsoft stack, and we know this for many, many reasons. For one, since DotNetNuke Corporation has been around, we've had at this point over 1,800 commercial customers. Last year we're very proud to have been named into the Inc. 500, so that's a pretty cool achievement. Number 23 overall in software, and also some of the stats that we have. To our knowledge, we have somewhere around 700,000 or 800,000 known installations out there, production installations of DotNetNuke. That's worldwide. People across the world use DotNetNuke for their business solutions, for their websites, for their web applications. We also have the only commercial app marketplace for a web content management system, with just like on your iPhone or your Android phone or Windows phone, we have over 10,000 apps that you can install directly into your website. So just like you have your phone and you decide when you get your phone and you unwrap the wrapper and you put it together and you start installing apps, you make exactly what you want. That's what you have with a website with .NET-Nuke. And to that end, we've had over 7 million downloads since the software was first released. And you can go ahead and rest easy. We have one of the largest communities known for software. We have over 1 million community members that are out there to help you, to keep you, have support, answer questions in forums, and just engage in what you're doing on a daily basis. Chances are what you're doing is not unique, and somebody's always going to be there to help you. So, you may notice some of these logos. You may have seen them before, but this is really a testament to how flexible as a platform DotNetNuke is. DotNetNuke is not a vertical specific application. You can use it for almost anything that you can think of. You can see almost every industry represented here, whether it's medical or government or military or retail or sports, hospitality. It's all here. So it's a very flexible solution. Many of these people are using DotNetNuke for their public-facing websites. Some of them are using them for the intranets or their extranets or both. And some of them are even building web applications that integrate with all their back-end systems to do various things for their customers or their partner programs and so on. So hopefully what we've been able to do as just a short introduction here to DotNetNuke is show you that we take this job very seriously. We know that your website is your most important business asset. When somebody thinks about your industry or your company, the first thing that they do generally is go and look for you. And we give you the tools, the toolbox that allows you to be able to integrate and put out the features and deal with the things that you need to as a company and put out the most important business asset in a way that you need to, in a way that allows your business to be successful. And so to that end, we're going to go ahead and move on to introduce Mr. Danny Shepard and Mike Tretchenjak. I knew I was going to get that wrong, of Titan SEO, and they're going to go ahead and tell you about the search engine optimization part of this bit here. So I'm going to go ahead and let them take it away. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Mike Tretchenjak and Danny Shepard with Titan SEO. Thanks for everyone for coming to our webinar. Good morning, good afternoon. So we're going to highlight a few things today, talk about obviously some of the big changes that Google is rolling out recently, what they've rolled out, what they're planning on doing, and then we'll talk about kind of how to leverage what's happening. Myself, Mike Tretchenjak, I'm the VP here at Titan SEO. Danny's our president as well, so we have some good insight for everyone, and we'll be happy to answer questions at the end of our presentation, so feel free to chop those up in the question bar. As far as our company is concerned, we are the official SEO agency with DotNetNuke. We provide SEO, pay-per-click, and social media services. We have some advanced technology that definitely sets us apart. So feel free to check out our website. If you want a free analysis, we're happy to provide that. So you can contact us after the webinar. And follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We have some great information and insights on updates and changes, which you'll see here. As far as our company is concerned, we started in 2004. We were featured in the Inc. 500, 5000 as well for a few years now. And then we are, of course, chosen as DotNetNuke's official partner in 2011. So we'll just dive into it here. So we don't want anyone to get hurt by Google's big changes, and there's been quite a few of them over the past few months. So first thing we're going to talk about is Google Places and how that's changed over to Google Local, Google Plus Local, which is a huge change for primarily local businesses, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Talk about death of the free click, which is pertaining to what's going to happen here pretty soon with the Google Merchant Center and listings, and how that's going to change over into Google Shopping, which is going to be huge for e-commerce sites. And then we'll get into the Google Penguin algorithm update, which I'm sure quite a few of you have probably heard of, that happened a few months back. We'll talk about what exactly happened, more importantly, how you can leverage the changes for your own website to make sure you can get the most out of that algorithm update. So the first thing we're going to highlight is goodbye to Google Places and hello to Google Plus Local. So we're going to highlight a few important points, what's changed, how it's going to be a much more streamlined experience for users, discovery powered by Google Plus connections and circles, and how people are going to find you. We're going to talk about how Google integrated Zagat scores into their review network, and then how that's really going to be a seamless integration across all the Google platforms. So what's changing? So first of all, Google Places is gone, and it's switched over to Google Plus Local. And what this is primarily going to do is create a simpler, more streamlined layout and design for your Places page or prior Places page, now Google Plus Local pages. It's going to have a lot more information. It's going to be easier for a user to view. It's going to have more reviews and photos and much more streamlined experience. It's also going to improve the way people share and discover businesses across the internet, which is going to be pretty neat. They're also adding in the Zagat scoring system, which is going to really be much more precise and give users a lot more information than it did prior. And then it's just going to enhance the overall local search and discovery experience across the Google network.
And one thing that I would add, too, that I think is important to consider if you're not a local business is that this will affect everyone. Google is linking this to Google Plus, their social network. So even if you're not a local business and you're not going after a local market, you're going to want to pay attention to this change. You're going to want to make sure you claim a page. You own your address. You own your location. You own your brand. And then you're going to want to look for ways that you can actually leverage that on a national, if you're just going after the U.S., or even an international basis, because there are lots of ways that you can take advantage of this and actually have a pretty significant advantage over competitors that aren't doing it right now.
So what we're showing you here is the new streamlined experience that you're going to see, or that you have seen with the new Google Plus Local. You're going to notice that there's a lot of imagery. It looks great, which is going to be great for users. You're going to also see the tab here on the left-hand side that gives you different options that you can look at for maps, for websites, for reviews. So great information, looks awesome, and it's going to be much more engaging across the board.
You're also going to have more control over what shows up on this page. In the past, on Google Places, all you could really change is, your address, your phone number. You could add a few pictures. The new Google Plus Local is going to have the ability to add videos. You're going to be able to see circles, fans on your Google Plus page. There's going to be more engagement, reviews, expert reviews. There's just a lot more meat to this. I think this is going to be good for engagement for your customers. It's also going to be good for awareness, as long as you stay on top of it. And the reason that we're talking about this is because we really feel it's important that business owners and businesses and marketing managers understand that this is a big shift by Google, and you need to stay on top of it. You really need to make sure that you're taking advantage of this and you're doing everything that you can to leverage these changes.
You're also going to have more impactful reviews from friends and people you know. So with the Google network, you have Google Circles with Google Plus. So you're going to be able to see that if there was a review by a friend, it's going to be much more trustworthy. They're also going to tie that into expert reviews for particular markets as well. So that's going to be integrated and pretty neat. And again, you're going to have recommendations from top reviewers and local experts. So you're going to be able to scroll through that very easily and get those reviews and make sure that obviously all those are going to be very targeted to what that user and searcher is looking for. And we're also seeing the introduction of Zagat scores, which is really neat because it's allowing local restaurants and local shops to really fine-tune their review network. It's also allowing users to be more specific with those reviews, and users coming to websites are going to be able to evaluate those local restaurants and shops on a much more precise scale. And then the last thing here is it's going to be a seamless integration across all the Google networks, Google Search, Google Maps, Google+, and with Android devices as well. So you want to make sure that you have someone managing those networks. It's going to be important moving forward as well. And then just the experience on Google.com and Google Maps overall is going to be neat, and it's going to have a lot more information there for users to be able to search. And then Android was also updated, so users with Android phones are going to have much more accessible ways to get to the information that they're looking at on a local level. So make sure that, so you're going to also have access to making sure that everything is presented correctly on the Android network.
And this is something, too, that is interesting to look at from an analytics perspective. So what you can do if you're using Google Analytics is you can go to the mobile section and look to see how behavior is going to start to change with these new features, because people are going to have more access to additional information on the map section, and you're going to probably see a lot more people coming into the website from that part of Google.
So for previous users of Google Places for Business, you can still manage everything through your Google Places for Business page. You can also continue to manage your advertising from the AdWords Express account. In the future, here shortly, we hope Google is going to offer a more seamless connection through all those networks. So stay tuned for that.
What we've also noticed, too, is that you can log in and access the new Google Plus Pages portal. Currently, it's just forwarding you to Google Places, but in the future, they're going to be merged, they're going to be integrated, and you're going to have access to make all of those changes that we're alluding to right now. As it stands today, you don't really need to do anything to have the transfer happen. The transfer is going to be seamless. Google is going to transfer all of the Google Places pages to the Google Plus pages. What you're going to want to make sure you stay on top of is when they start to allow you to actually use that Google Plus portal to connect your Google Plus social network business page for your business to your map page and then seamlessly integrate those. So that's what you're going to want to stay on top of. Again, if you want to follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, we're on top of this. We're talking to Google. They're letting us know when these updates are happening. So that's a good place to find out when it actually happens and when you'll have access to make all of these cool changes.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is goodbye to Google Product Search or Merchant Search, and hello to Google Shopping. Now this has not been launched yet, but it's going to happen here fairly soon. So we'll talk about what's changing, how to leverage it, how it's going to enhance the product listing ads, and then we'll also talk about the new Google's Trusted Store badge that's going to be implemented, which is pretty neat. So what's changing? What we're going to be seeing is now this is going to step into the bid for clicks and sales network, much like Google AdWords. So there isn't going to be those free merchant listings that are popping up. You're going to be able to bid on this based on a CPC or CPA model, which is going to be neat because you're going to be able to control where and how your ads are shown, which gives e-commerce websites much more control. It's going to be a better experience. And then we're going to see a merger of Google product listing ads into Google product search. So stay tuned for that. You're going to be able to see the Google shopping box, which we'll share here in a moment. You're going to be able to see enhanced large ads up in the upper right-hand corner, which are going to be, they're going to add a better experience overall.
One of the interesting things I think about this change is that everyone that we've told about it at first initially has a negative reaction. They don't like the fact that the free listings that they were getting before through their feed on Google Merchant Center is going to go away. I tend to look at it from more of a positive perspective because although that is going to go away, up to this point, merchants have had absolutely no control over whether or not those listings show, if they do show, how often they show, what they show for. There's really nothing that is giving them the ability to leverage it. With this new change, they're going to be able to leverage that. You're going to be able to determine what products you want to show up, how they're going to show up, what picture is going to show up. They're going to be much more descriptive. You'll have more control over whether or not that product goes to a specific landing page. And from what we understand, it's going to be a CPA-based model, meaning you do not pay unless you actually make a sale, which I think is great. And as long as you're making that sale and you're still staying profitable, I think it's a win-win for everyone. Now, it's also important to remember, although this hasn't happened yet, once it does happen, there are still going to be a lot of people that aren't aware of it and a lot of people that don't understand it, and there are going to be plenty of people that don't take advantage of it in the beginning. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for businesses that know about this to leverage it now and, you know, be an early adapter and really reap the benefits of being there before their competitors are.
Yeah, so how to take advantage of this, Danny just kind of highlighted how to. You want to get in there, sign up for it now, get in there early. Google's indicated they're probably going to give a 10% discount off your spend. So if you don't already have one, set it up now and start benefiting from it early on. You can see here the product listing ads, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen these in the past with the merchant listings, but you're going to see the image, you're going to be able to see the price, a better description. It's going to be prominent on that search page. Again, that CPA basis, which is really neat. So make sure that you're on top of this. Google is also starting to introduce their Trusted Store badge, which is really neat. And this is going to improve conversion rates, average order size by reassuring buyers that it's a great experience. It's going to be based on a couple different factors. Number one is reliable shipping, which is something that you want to pay heavy attention to. So if you have great shipping, great customer service, you're going to want to get in on this so you can get that badge and really build up your brand through the Google Trusted Store. And it's also going to be tied into excellent service as well.
We also see this as a positive thing, especially for merchants that are doing a good job. They're shipping their products out quickly. They have happy customers. This is going to give you a huge advantage. And if you're not doing those two things, it's really going to hurt you. So you're going to want to start doing those. What Google has started to do with the tests that they're already rolling out with this is they're starting to show these ads, or show their pay-per-click ads with the Trusted Seal. And we expect eventually they're going to start to show the Trusted Store on organic search as well, just like they started rolling out Google Plus on paid, and then they rolled it out to organic. So it's something that you're going to want to pay attention to. It's something that you can request to sign up for now, and it's something that you're going to want to do if you're an online merchant.
Yeah, and you're also going to see it in the AdWords extension as well, which is just going to help with overall conversion rates and that brand equity. And like Danny mentioned, we anticipate it's going to be added onto organic listings also in the future. So we're going to have Danny start getting into the Penguin update.
All right, so the next section talks about one of the bigger updates that we've seen Google make from an algorithmic perspective over the years. We're going to talk about what happened first. We're going to also talk about how DotNetNuke users really won big with the way that the code is structured. So if you're not already a DNN user, we can talk about the advantages there. We'll talk about how to know if you're affected. A lot of people didn't realize they were affected or don't know if they're affected or think they are and don't know how to look at it, so we'll talk about that. And if you were affected, we'll talk about how to fix it. And we'll also discuss ways to protect yourself moving forward, because this is not the first that we've seen of this update. We expect them to continue to tweak it and dial it up. And we'll talk about good SEO and give you some tips on what you want to do to continue to make updates from an SEO perspective to prevent yourself from suffering from future updates like this. All right, so first, for those of you who haven't heard about this, we'll talk about what happened. Essentially what Google did is they rolled out an algorithm change. It happened on April 24th, and that's when we first started seeing it come through their data centers. And from Google's perspective, what they wanted to do was penalize sites that they felt were spamming them. Now, Google's definition of spam and the traditional definition of spam may be different. It depends on who you talk to. But it's easy to identify because Google puts out their terms of service, what they're looking at, and what you don't want to do or try to avoid to not get penalized by an update like this. And we'll talk about that. They also removed a ton of links from their index. Now, that doesn't mean that those pages are gone. They didn't de-index these pages, but they stopped passing credit from these links. So if you were buying links, there's a possibility that you got negatively affected by this update. If you were trading links, if you were linking or getting links from bad neighborhoods, you may have been affected. So there are a lot of, we've estimated millions of links that were actually removed. Now, the misconception that we often see with links being removed is that your site was actually penalized, when in fact it wasn't. What happened is you no longer benefited from those links pointing to your site. The popularity is no longer passed. The anchor text is no longer used for keyword matching. So it looks like you actually got penalized when, in effect, you really just lost that credibility. So there are ways, if that's what happened to you, to fix that, and we'll talk about that. I'll go through the terms of service specifically and talk about what we saw with this update, how it was affected, and what got affected the most. And we'll talk about some of the sites that were affected and shouldn't have been. We've talked to a few potential customers here at Titan SEO where that happened. And, you know, it's sad that that happens. Unfortunately, sometimes sites fall through the cracks, and even though they weren't, you know, violating any terms of service, they were doing everything on the up and up, they still got penalized. So we'll talk about ways that you can try to fix that. As far as the DotNetNuke code is concerned, if you're already using DotNetNuke, you're a step ahead. DotNetNuke has by far one of the most search engine friendly code architectures out of the box. You know, Titan SEO, we have clients that use all types of different CMSs. We have clients that custom code them. We have, you know, even straight HTML sites that aren't as search engine friendly as .NET So that's definitely an advantage. If you're not using .NET it's possible that you may have been penalized for things like iframes or excessive use of iframes or tables or too much code markup, especially if you're going in and marking up things like titles for links, image alt tags, if you're excessively marking those up and putting keywords in them. We saw a lot of sites like that get penalized. So that's something that you want to try to avoid. How do you know if you're affected? There are a lot of sites that were affected and may not realize it because the impact wasn't significant. You know, if you only have 100 people coming into your site this month and next month you have 40 people, you may not realize. On the other end of the spectrum, there are sites that absolutely got hammered. You know, they might have had 100,000 people coming in a day, and the next thing you know, they've got 500. So we've seen that much of an impact on, you know, other companies that we've talked to that got hit by this update. The easiest way to tell if you got hit was to look at your analytics. If your organic search traffic on April 24th drops off a cliff, chances are pretty good that you got hit by this update. We also saw another iteration or addition change to this algorithm update on May 25th. Actually, May 24th, May 25th, and May 26th, they rolled it out. So it's possible you weren't affected by that first rollout, but when they dialed it up just a little bit more at the end of May, you may have been affected then. So again, if you see that big drop-off from organic traffic, and everything else is still the same, your direct traffic is still the same, referral traffic is the same, organic traffic falls off a cliff, you're probably affected by this update. And then the last thing, of course, that you can look at are your rankings. If you had really strong rankings and those went away, there's a good chance you got affected. What we didn't see a lot of is complete outright banning. Sometimes when you're really excessively you know, gaming the search engines and doing things that Google doesn't like, they'll completely kick you out of the index. You won't come up for your brand, you won't come up for a site command, you won't come up for anything. We really didn't see that with Penguin. Most of the sites that were affected still came up for their brand name and even came up for some additional keywords that, you know, aren't easy to come up for. So it's not like we saw outright bans. So it may be more difficult to determine if you were hit if you have really low search volume or don't have a lot of traffic.
Yeah, and also make sure you continue to monitor your analytics because this is not the end of Penguin. We anticipate there to be more updates coming along, so make sure you're monitoring that, looking at your analytics and traffic and keyword rankings to make sure you're not losing any ground.
This next section talks about what you're going to want to do if you actually were affected. The main thing you're going to want to pay attention to are Google's terms of service, and make sure that you're not doing anything that's going to catch or cause you to get caught by one of their filters. One of the things that we see a lot that people do inadvertently is have hidden text or text that is what we call slightly hidden. So if you have a really light gray on a white background, that can cause one of their filters to think you're trying to hide text or spam them with text. If you're doing white on white, white text on a white background, that's definitely going to be bad from a search engine perspective. They're going to hit you. And the same goes for text that's really, really small, or if you have it, 50 spaces down, way below the fold. Avoid all of those tactics. If you're doing them now, try to fix that. You're not going to want to use cloaking or sneaky redirects. This is kind of a no-brainer, I think. If you're doing those things, you're sophisticated enough to understand that you're trying to game the search engines. If you were working with another SEO company and you're not sure what they were doing and you lost rankings, you lost traffic, and you got hit by Penguin but you don't know why, these are things you're going to want to ask them if they're doing. Make sure they're not doing cloaking or sneaky redirects. These are things that may get you results short-term, and they work great if you do it effectively short-term, but it's about the worst thing you can do from a long-term perspective because you will get caught, and typically you'll get hit by updates like this. Don't send automated queries to Google. That just means you don't want to have something on your site that if someone clicks something, it sends a request to Google to search for something. The only exception to this is if you have a Google API and you're using the Google API, then that's fine to do that. Or if you're using something like a Google Places listing on your site that queries Google for your location, that's fine too. One of the things that we see a lot, and almost I would say the vast majority of people that we've talked to, these aren't our customers, but these are people who have talked to us after getting hit by this update, is our pages that are loaded with keywords. To Google, this is going to look unnatural. To users, it's going to look unnatural. And so with this update, we saw a lot of sites get negatively affected. And when I say overloaded with keywords, I don't mean having an important keyword on there 1 or 2 times if you've got 100 words. I mean having it 30 times for 100 words, or even 20 times for 100 words. Excessive keyword density definitely got hit by this update. So if you have that on your site, if you're repeating keywords, or let's say you're a business that has 25 locations and you have all 25 locations listed on every single page on your site along with your main keyword, chances are you got hit by this update. And if you didn't, you're probably going to get hit by it soon as they continue to dial it up. So you're going to want to try to avoid that and just try to make the pages natural. The best test to use is if a user, your customer, came to your site, would it make sense to them? Would they read that and say, yeah, that makes sense, this is what this business does? You don't want nonsense or irrelevant stuff on your pages. You also don't want to create multiple pages, subdomains, or domains with similar or duplicate content. Again, this is one of those things that we saw a lot of businesses affected by. Many of them didn't even realize they had duplicate content on different pages. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't have a small, simple phrase like, follow us on Facebook, or, order today and get $15 off shipping, or whatever you have that's similar on each page. That's fine. What I'm talking about are paragraphs, entire pages of information that are duplicated and maybe slightly changed with different keywords to try to target, a specific phrase. You're going to want to avoid that. If you're doing it now, you need to fix it, because if you didn't get hit, you're probably going to get hit. We're watching Google's testing data centers, and it's pretty apparent that those pages are going to continue to suffer. You don't want to create pages with malicious behavior, phishing, installing viruses, Trojans, and other badware. Now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, obviously, I'm not going to do that. What you may not be aware of is that other people are going to try to get into your site, hack into your site, and put those things on your site. So if you're not a person trying to fish for credit card information, which I'm sure none of the people on this call are, you're going to want to protect yourself with a strong firewall. You're going to want to make sure your server is difficult to penetrate so that this isn't going to happen to you. If it does happen to you, there are things that you can do to fix it. You can remove it. Once it's removed, you can resubmit to Google, and 99 out of 100 times, they'll take away any penalty that they gave you. But it's something that you want to, be aware of.
Yeah, and as always, you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your outbound links that are coming into your site, making sure there's no links coming in from bad neighborhoods. If you're paying for links, you want to make sure that those are canceled out. Google's doing a really good job at finding those links. So you want to make sure that you're getting quality links coming into the site as always.
And don't link out to bad neighborhoods either.
Right.
Kind of off topic, and it wasn't affected by this update because it was already affected. Don't link out to sites that are in bad neighborhoods. You also want to avoid doorway pages. Doorway pages are pages that you just make for a search engine. Typically, they're not in your main navigation. You try to get them to rank, and you funnel people through to your main site. The problem with these pages from a search engine perspective is Google sees them as trying to spam with irrelevant content. If you're going to have these pages, make sure they're part of your normal or main navigation and that they're easy to navigate to, then you'll probably be okay. The last one I think is, I have mixed feelings. They say if your site participates in an affiliate program, make sure it adds value. One of the downsides of the Penguin update that we saw happen was a lot of sites that really shouldn't have been affected negatively were because they got tagged as affiliate sites that don't add value. The challenge if you are an affiliate marketer is that you want people to try to convert. So you're going to do everything that you can to funnel them through to convert to get a sale. And a lot of times that means when you get the sale, taking them off of your site. The problem is that Google, using what's called clickstream data, watches to see if that happens. So if you're ranking for something, someone comes into your site, they go to that first page, and bam, they're off to the affiliate network and they buy. To Google, they think that you're not adding enough value to be in the index. They would rather rank that site that that person clicked on and went to. The challenge, of course, is that you're doing a good job in actually getting that person to what they want. So what you have to do if you were affected, if you're an affiliate site and you were affected by this update, is you have to actually do a worse job at affiliate marketing and get people to stay on your site longer, visit more pages, have a longer time on site, have a lower bounce rate, which, by the way, typically is a good thing if you're an affiliate marketer and you're bouncing them to the company that's advertising, and get the site to look like it's more of a regular site. So that is definitely a challenge. If any of you were affected by that and want to talk to us, or actually if any of you were affected by any of these things and want to talk to us, like we mentioned in the beginning, we are doing free analysis. We'll look at your site. We have proprietary technology here, a search engine spider that can crawl your site just like Google would. We can find issues very quickly. So if that's something that you're interested in, as DotNetNuke SEO partner, we're happy to do that for you. Just let us know. We'll give you the contact information at the end. And then the last thing I want to talk about is how good SEO almost always wins. If you're managing your own SEO, you want to make sure that you stay on top of updates. If you're on this call, you're doing a good job. You're learning about what has changed. You're learning about how Google is continuing to try to fight spam from their perspective. You want to make sure that you continue to do things that are not going to get you into trouble. You also want to avoid what we call lazy SEO. Lazy SEO is where you do things that are shortcuts to get results short term, but in the long run, they're actually going to have a negative impact. Those are things like buying links. You could also take a shortcut by doing things like cloaking or keyword stuffing or adding doorway pages. You always want to try to avoid all of those things. In the long run, good SEO is always going to win.
Yeah, and if you've hired an SEO team or plan to, the first thing is do your due diligence. Make sure that You're doing a lot of research on that prospective SEO company. Make sure they haven't been impacted by any of the algorithm updates. Make sure they deliver strong results. Look at their customers. Ask for a lot of details. Make sure that they're delivering quality results to all of their customers. Talk to references. Just do your homework. That's important. Want to make sure you're getting the right team behind you, and if you do, you're going to win.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times we get businesses that come to us that have worked with an SEO company that did something, unscrupulous. They took shortcuts, and they didn't win. So you definitely want to do your due diligence and ask for references, look at case studies. All of those things are very important to do. So we're done with the presentation. In summary, some of the takeaways, I think you're going to want to definitely take control of your Google Plus local page and start adding information as soon as that's available. Set up your Google product ads now and get 10% off. One of the cool things about the transition is that Google is allowing people to merge the product listing ads right now. If you want to do that by volunteering to do it, you can. So you can get ahead of the curve and start managing this today. They aren't going to actually take away the free listings here for probably a couple more months. At least that's what we're hearing. So you don't have to necessarily do that now. But if you wanted to merge them now and you wanted to get ahead of the game and start optimizing these things and watching it, you can. And if you haven't already set up, account, you don't have a Google Merchant account, you don't have a Google Shopping account, and you're an online merchant, do it. It's one of the best ways. I mean, we're talking about a cost, for an acquisition. You're not paying more than what you need to for an actual sale, so you should definitely do it. And then the last part, just look at Penguin. Look at what has changed now, and make sure you're not doing any of those things. With the Panda update that happened last year in February, we literally saw 22 or 23 major changes from that February day until today. We expect to see the same with Penguin. So definitely try to make sure that you're on top of that. If you don't have time to be on top of it, hire an SEO company, to make sure that you are. Also, if you'd like to get updates on what's happening in the SEO world, in the pay-per-click world, in the social media world, follow us on Twitter at Titan SEO. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Titan SEO. And if you'd like a free website evaluation, you can email Mike. His email is mike@titanseo.com, or you can tweet us or comment on Facebook, and we'll follow up with you that way. We're also going to be at the .NetNuke World Show in Orlando in October. So you can talk to us there. We'll have more information there. It's going to be a great show, so anyone that doesn't know about it, definitely recommend that you check it out. I've got a link here, bit.ly/DNN World. It's got all the information on that. Now we're going to take some time to answer some questions. We actually have a ton of questions, so we're not going to be able to get to all of them during this call, but we are committed to answer all of these questions. So as long as you left us an email address, we'll definitely go through and email that back to you, and we're going to go ahead and start on these now.
Yeah, and also one other thing, if anyone has any more specific questions, feel free to shoot me an email or ask us on Twitter.
I'm just going to scroll to the top of all these questions. Okay, so someone asked, does creating different portals, is that something that can benefit your Google rankings when duplicate data is in your site? This is something that we covered during the presentation, but I want to elaborate on it because I think it's really important. If you have a separate URL and that separate URL has duplicate content, typically what Google is going to do is they're going to give credit to the site that had that content first, and almost in every case ignore the content on that second site from a ranking perspective. The only exception to that is if that second site has a lot of incoming links that are authoritative and popular. It's possible that both of them can rank. It's extremely unlikely. I hardly ever see it happen, and I don't recommend that strategy because it's a lot of work and you're not going to get a big benefit from it. You're much better off building one site and adding a lot of unique, valuable content to that site, getting good links to that site, and doing SEO on that site because it's going to be more authoritative and you're going to be able to leverage the results much better. Okay, so we have a question that I'm going to let Will answer. Is DotNetNuke considered an enterprise-type CMS?
Hey, so .NET is definitely considered an enterprise-type CMS. I mean, if you look at the awards and typically who we come up against, it's always the who's who of CMS platforms, and so there's also something to be said of what you define as an enterprise CMS. But definitely enterprises of many sizes do use .NET I don't know if you remember the logo slide in the very beginning. If you made it here, to see that intro, but there's definitely some enterprises that use .NET so I would say yes.
Oh, we have another question. When is Google Plus Local going live, or has a change happened already? It has shifted already. It's live. So you want to make sure, and we went through this in the presentation, but just to reiterate, you want to make sure to go in there and take control of that.
And then we had another question that relates to Google+. If you already have a Google Places account, how do you switch it over to Google+ Local Pages? The switch happened automatically. So if you went to your Google+ Local Pages login right now, you're going to see your Google Places information. However, once that data is available to change, that's going to be different. Google Places is going to go away, and you're going to have a lot of additional information that you can add, and you're going to want to add on your Google Plus pages. One other thing that you're going to want to be aware of is that when the switchover happens, they're also going to allow you to merge your Google Plus social network business page to your Google Places page. So what that means is the two will be connected. If you have people in your circles or that are following you on your Google page, all of those people are going to be viewed. We're also expecting, and this is a long-term strategy, methodology by Google that we've talked with them about, is we expect to see Google Plus play a much bigger role in algorithmic-based search, in the organic search. And what we anticipate it to be used for is a similar parameter that they use in their algorithm for link popularity. What they'll probably start to do, and they're not going to do this tomorrow, and they're not going to make the weighting really heavy right away, but they're definitely going to do it over time. We expect them to start to use people in your circles as link votes. They're much more authentic. It's harder to fake. It's harder to trick. You can't buy people that have authentic networks like you can with links. So we expect that to play a bigger role. So now is the time, if you're not doing it already, to build up your Google Plus page. It's not as big as Facebook. There are not as many people following it. There are not as many members. It's way harder to get people to actually follow you. But early adapters are going to benefit. We saw it with Facebook. We saw it with Google. When Google came out, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. So even though you might not see a benefit today, you're going to see a benefit in the future. So start working on that now, or hire someone to start helping you out. Okay, we had a question. Should I set up a separate Google account for my Google Business Plus? You don't necessarily have to. It depends on who you want to have access to that particular account. So if you're a small business and you're going to manage it yourself, it's fine to use the same login, same Google account. If you're a larger business and you have someone else managing it, you don't want them going into your personal accounts, you're definitely going to want to have a separate account. Typically, I would say it's probably better to have a separate account for security reasons, especially if you're planning on growing, and I don't know many small businesses that don't plan on growing. You're definitely going to want to have that separated. Okay, we've got a really good question that relates to sites that have a lot of locations. So this question says, my company has multiple locations, more than 75 in our area. What is the best way to manage these listings and claim locations as we add them? So one of the things that is not going to change with Google, with the Google Plus Local, is the way that you claim listings. You're going to still need to do it either by having them send a piece of paper in the mail with a little code on it to those locations, or by having unique phone numbers for each of those locations. You're going to want to claim all of them, if possible, now, so that by the time you have the ability to add unique information to each one with Google Plus Local, you'll be able to do that. Now, the difference between the two is in the past, on Google Places, all of those locations just kind of sat out, you know, in the web, and they were separate. They weren't really aggregated together. With Google Plus Local, those are all going to be connected to your website and to your business profile, which is awesome, because now you have a pretty significant advantage over someone who has one location, because the person who comes to your site can look at it and say, oh my gosh, they have 75 locations, they have all of these different areas that can service me, and they can take advantage of that. So you're going to want to definitely do everything you can to leverage that now. Okay, so we are a nonprofit and use Google Grants. Will that be transferred over similar to Google AdWords? So if you have a Google grant on AdWords now, nothing's going to change. That's going to still be in AdWords. You're still going to get that money in AdWords. I don't think that anything's going to change. If you're using that for your AdWords Express account and you're actually advertising on a map location, you're still going to have the ability to control that. Nothing is going to change in the way that works from a management perspective. So I don't think that you'll be negatively affected. Okay, so there's a question that asks, what do you mean more markup is bad for SEO? Do you mean the less code, the better? That's a really good question. And the answer is really dependent on the site, the circumstances of the site, and how it's set up. As a general rule of thumb, you don't want to have excessive keyword markup. So, for example, there's the opportunity on links to have a title. And, you know, some businesses go in there and some CMSs automatically input a title, and they'll use the same anchor text as the link, or they'll use, you know, the same keyword in your title tag. Having excessive code in there can be the death knell of your website from a Google perspective. You also don't want to have a bunch of CSS markup, you know, on your site. If you've got, you know, one color on a page, you don't want to have that color represented in the HTML on that page, also in the cascading style sheet, referenced differently on different pages. The more streamlined you can make it and the easier for a search engine to read, the better. Excessive JavaScript can be problematic. You want to externalize that. So there are a lot of things that you can do if you're worried about having too much code to clean it up, make it simple, make it easy. Now, what I'm not referring to when I say markup is information that helps you understand the site code architecture. In other words, if you've got, you know, markup that says this is the site header, and then below that you have something, this is the body of the site, this is where the footer starts, this is where we have our Google Analytics code, that's totally fine. As long as you're not putting, this is our Google Analytics code for our site that sells computers. If you want a computer / computer buy now computer, you know, doing things like that are just going to cause you a lot of headaches and expand.
We got a question of where do you see your keyword rankings? There's a variety of programs out there that'll help you track that. You can search for them on Google. If you want to shoot me an email, I can send you a few that are free and then some that are paid as well.
You can also use Google Webmaster Tools. Google Webmaster Tools will show you traffic by keywords for some of your top keywords, so that's an easy place to look at it. What we do for our clients is we actually have a program that we built in-house that checks every single derivative that you could possibly think of that they could rank for, and then cross-references that to see if they rank, where they rank, and what the position is, and then we can see how much traffic comes in from that. We use a technology called human emulation to do that so that it looks natural to a search engine and won't cause any issues.
We have a question. If you use graphics to hide things like a border that you are trying to hide hurt your rankings?
The answer to that is yes and no. It depends on how it's done. If you're using divs, for example, to hide things on your site, I'd say 9 out of 10 times, as long as it's not content, you're probably going to be okay. I have seen cases where filter has caught, you know, someone for hiding a graphic. Typically, it's a 30-day ban. It's not a Google Penguin ban. It's not, you know, something that is going to be permanent like Google Penguin would if you didn't fix it. It's one of those things, you fix it, You resubmit your site to Google, say, hey, I accidentally did this, sorry, can you put my site back up, and typically they will. But I would try to avoid that if possible.
We have a question about blogging. Will you get slapped for taking advantage of keyword density with blogging? The same rules apply to blogging as they do with your website. So you want to make sure you're not keyword stuffing your blog posts. You want to make sure you're not putting duplicate content on there. You want to make sure it's very relevant to that user that could potentially be reading that blog post. So make sure you're not stuffing a ton of keywords in there or adding duplicate content on there as well.
We've got an excellent question that asks about duplicate content for pay-per-click. So it says, regarding pages with duplicate content, we would like to have marketing landing pages for pay-per-click campaigns to land on. Some of the content will be similar. Is this okay? The answer to this is yes and no. You want to really do this correctly. If you have that duplicate content and you don't do the right things to tell search engines that that is a landing page for pay-per-click and they should ignore it, it can be a huge problem. What you can do, there are actually two things that you can do, and you can choose which one is easier to avoid a potential disaster with this. The first is what is called a canonical link. What a canonical link does, and you can Google it, Google has information about it, is it allows users to tell a search engine that this page is duplicated. The correct page that they want to follow and index is located at xyz.com, /123.aspx. So you're giving them the page that they should follow and telling them essentially ignore this page. The second thing that you can do, and it's just as effective, either one works, is what's called a no-follow tag. You can do this either in the meta section on the header of that page, or you can use robots text to block entire sections. What the no-follow tag does is it tells the search engine spider, hey, we know we have these pages, we know you see them, but ignore them. We don't want to get penalized for having duplicate content. So those are all things that you can do there. It looks like we're at the end of our time here. We still have a ton of additional questions. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to all of them during the live presentation. The good news is, like I mentioned before, we are committed to answering every single one of these. So we will take a look at them. If you left an email address, we'll send you an email response. And of course, if anyone wants to get that free evaluation, you've got Mike's email. It's up on the board. Feel free to get in touch.
Yeah, and this whole presentation will be available here, I believe, in the next 24 hours. So look for that, and we appreciate everyone's time today.
Yeah, just thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for having this webinar, and it was really nice to have some experts on board to talk about SEO, and I want to thank everybody for attending. And just like I said, we'll have the webinar and the materials up in the next 24 to 48 hours. So thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your days or evenings.